house, and then our colleagues online. We must say we are very glad to have you join us this morning. And we are privileged to have a very interesting presentation, which is going to kick off any moment soon. I would like to immediately go over to present our chair for today's seminar. And this is Dr. Irene Appeaning is going to chair this morning's seminar, and she is the head of the media, art and media section at the Institute of African Studies, and she is a senior research fellow. So without taking too much time, I think I will hand over to Doug so that she can proceed with the presentation for with the introduction process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hasiatu. I'm so grateful for giving me this opportunity to chair Kai's presentation. So this morning we are privileged to have Kai Yoshida, who is a master's student at the Department of Architecture in the Graduate School of Engineering at the University of Tokyo. He earned his bachelor's degree from Osaka University in 2022, and he is quite interested in researching into relationship between the urban and nationalism in Ghana in the modern era. And he's currently being supervised by Professor Hayashi, who is also an urban and architectural historian. So for Kai's presentation, this morning he wants to share a bit of his research, what he's been doing and what he's been researching about in Ghana, and specifically the Marine Drive. And he wants to understand the processes, the changes that are going on within this enclave. Even though this Marine Drive enclave was envisioned by Kwame Nkrumah, he wants to understand the changes that are occurring. So it's about the way the top-down approach to planning is being merged with bottom-up approach where individuals are developing. So that is what he wants to do. So without much ado, I think we'll go right ahead and then ask Kai to share some of his findings with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. First of all, I really appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for going out of your way and preparing for me today. My title is The Changes in the Urban Elements of Marine Drive Area in Modern Accra. Yes, this is today's table. This is my first opportunity to do the presentation in English, so sorry if it is hard to hear. First, please let me introduce myself. I am a master's student, Department of Architecture, Graduate School of Engineering, the University of Tokyo. I earned my Bachelor of Science in Global Architecture Engineering from Osaka University in 2022. On graduation, I submit both a design project this right one, and the aesthetics. I currently study modern architecture in Tropic and associate professor Hayashi at the University of Tokyo, especially focusing on the relationship between urban development and nationalism in Ghana to earn my master art. An encounter with a Ghanaian socialist led me to interest in studying Ghanaian theory. Here, what I like to do outdoor architecture. I played baseball for, I played basketball for 4 years. When I visited Ghana last year, I became friends with my roommate who is from Mauritania through basketball. And my favorite food is chocolate. And please eat the chocolate of souvenir from Japan. And my hobby is drawing such like these pictures on my iPad, which share in my Instagram. Yes. I met a Ghanaian teacher when I was an undergraduate and became strongly interested in Ghana. Then, last year, I visited Ghana by myself to look for a research subject about architecture and Ghana. The site of a private company displaying the building pillar along the street and the presence of common houses and souvenir shop around the Nkrumah mausoleum site was new to me because the way the city was mixture of public and private sectors. The most impressive of them all was landmarks such as the Independence Arch and the huge sports stadium that plugged into the open field of view. I looked the work wall along 28th February Road painted with a development plan outline utilized these landmarks. So the symbol of independence constructed by PWD and Kwame and Nkrumah are important elements in the future Accra city. So I am interested in the relationship between architecture and nation building in Africa and would like to study Ghana, which led African countries to independence as an important case study for nation building. Because Ghana is one of the first countries which independent from colonial rule. On the other hand, I would like to review the value of building in the ministerial area that have existed since before Nkrumah's administration and that have little to do with national power. The elements that make up today's city are diverse, including not only the architecture that Nkrumah was deeply involved in planning, but also the buildings that existed before 1957, and those that have been built more recently. From the view of architectural preservation, I look around at both prominent and less prominent buildings. And after estimating the age of the building, I would like to consider about the future redevelopment in Marine Drive area. So what I should do here is following three. First, to clarify the renewal process of architecture and cities in Marine Drive area during the colonial period, the independence period, and up to the present. It may be possible to predict the future of urban planning following the renewal process. Second, to observe modern architecture together with you. By doing so, I will be able to gain a local perspective. We would like to deepen international exchange through architectural observation, and at the same time to consider the current state of modern architecture in Ghana in more depth. By acting as a bridge for international exchange ourselves, we would like to build an academic relationship between Japan and Ghana. Finally, to know all buildings in Marine Drive area, at least walking and seeing them. By my seniors in my laboratory have conducted a survey in Jakarta, Indonesia, in which they decided on a certain area and documented all the buildings within that area. I would like to try what my seniors have done in there. I would like to try it in Ghana, Africa, a place that is not familiar for us. So let's start. Let's get down to the meat of my research. I am a Japanese, so I will mention how the political center affects current cities in Japan. This is called Jokamatsu, which meaning is a castle city. A castle city is established around a road castle built in 17th century. The ingenuity in urban defense can be seen everywhere in the castle town. Especially the area around Addo Castle is planned to be the center of the current road. There also be another example in China. Mao Zedong declared the full founding of the People's Republic of China at the top of the tower, and his image is depicted on the national emblem of the People's Republic of China. This castle in which he declared was the catalyst for the formation of the urban axis now. Such like this, building associated with powerful people who created the foundation of a country are often the basis for subsequent urban planning. In Ghana, the equivalent power is Nkrumah, I think. My field is called the Marine Drive area or Marine Drive Accra, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. My field is called the Marine Drive area or Marine Drive Accra. Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture initiate the development scheme in this area now. The origin traces back to the country independence 60 years ago. The area was mainly planned for ministerial area or post and future parliament. In the future, the Marine Drive area will also provide essential infrastructure to support the country's developing culture and creative industries. Marine Drive area will transform one of the most important and currently underutilized real estate parcels along the city waterfront into a visible central and residential business district with robust civic infrastructure. By activating the waterfront along the full length of the site and introducing multiple types of programmatic interventions, Marine Drive area cultivate a new civic experience and that memorized Ghana's founder list, celebrating and elevating Ghana's culture. Thus, the Marine Drive area is an area that will continue to change very rapidly in the future. In this context, I'd like to highlight what should be inherited by knowing how Nkrumah has handled this area and, on the other hand, what other players have left behind in this area. About the overall of my study, the Britain made an appropriate urban planning legislation and controlled the Accra, and Nkrumah planned the architecture of the capital city of Ghana in the independence era, suggesting an identification between architecture and consciously managed national idea. Thus, Accra has been perceived as a city managed under the top-down direction. But there must be lots of elements that occurred not by Nkrumah. The way of record of independence is changing from architecture to landscape, and the Marine Drive area is growing differently from Nkrumah's urban planning. Therefore, it could be said that independence is constantly being renewed by various players. I wonder, a perspective on the coastal area from perspective of architectural preservation would be useful for new future development. And there are keywords of this research: urban access, renewal, the Marine Drive area, and Nkrumah. I am trying to depict the urban history of Marine Drive area and will organize preferred research in this field. Ian Jackson is a researcher at the Liverpool School of Architecture. He focuses on Mphil and Jane Doru's works on tropical architecture and village housing in tropics, mainly in the West Africa. Janet Berry-Hess is a researcher on African art and architecture in the liberal area. She describes the formation process of the symbolic city of independence by Nkrumah from an artist perspective, and while she focuses on the top-down creation of the city. From the end of the 17th century, Accra has developed towards the interior with James Fort and Christian Borg Castle as its two nuclei and linking them by British. After the independence, Nkrumah aimed to suppress local ethnic identity and language. Let a new Ghanaian identity emerge and unified our nation. To symbolize a new nation, he may have needed a new architecture design below. Its international style called modernism architecture. Its characteristics are the following: RC construction, unobtrusive authorship, which does not symbolize a specific region, and universal and homogeneous. The international style was introduced into the architecture of developing country immediately. It is said that it also became a means for developing country to identify with developed country. I recognize that there were two major urban planners in the mid-1900s. In the end of the colonial era, Mphil prepared city plans for Accra from 1944 to 1954 and contributed the formation of Accra's central business district. And just before independence, he proceeded to restructure Accra CBD central business district, and develop the city coastal area. In his plan, he proposed road improvement innovation plans to relieve overcrowding in the CBD and the landscaped parks and plazas. His objective was to organize order and dominance within the area from Jamestown to Christianport Castle. But on the other hand, after the independence, Nkrumah adopted the opposite direction. Nkrumah prioritized creating green space and landmarks within the city to symbolize unity as a Ghana. The urban overcrowding gap widened a bit, and international style architecture and landmarks that stand out in open vista become more prominent. The city thus renewed by Nkrumah is once again being turned into a tourist destination through the development in honor of its independent leader. But is there any architecture of historical value buried in the shadow of Nkrumah's urban planning? Now is the time to review history from the perspective of architectural preservation and discover important elements of the city that are not under the Nkrumah's influence. Next, I explain about the elements Nkrumah has created in Accra. I will talk about what I discovered when I walking the street of a Marine Drive area. It is the relationship between Black Star Gate and the Black Star object that stands on it. Fundamentally, gates have two sides, entrance and exit. But the star on the top of it is four-sided. When I see it, I wonder the person who set it on the gate in Nkrumah might want to create a new urban axis against the road. The second discovery that accelerates this idea was that the Black Star monument was made of a different material than the gate. Further investigation revealed that the monument was not depicted on the 1965 bill, and that the map as of 1966 called it as a national monument instead of Black Star Gate. When I focus on the axis perpendicular to 28th February Road, I found many things. Accra was formed along an axis connecting two ports, James Fort and Christianport Castle by Britain. But the gate is designed to be passed through the 28th February Road. The landscape also open along the road. On the other hand, the axis perpendicular to 28th February Road is also very open, I feel. The Black Star object on the gate seems to lead the consciousness to opposite axis to the previous axis. Black Star Gate is not the only element leading through. The Independence Arch also facing in the direction of a new axis perfectly. Finally, in the future, there appear to be several redevelopment proposals that would extend to new axis to the coast. In this left one. The common denominator of the construction clearly influenced by the axis is that there was completed in 1961. The elements are following. Accra Sports Stadium, built by Alexander Barrow in 1961, is tilted and positioned along an axis, despite of the shape of the site. And the two frame liberty were positioned in 1961 as if they emphasize the north-south aspect of the four-sided black star object. Needless to say, the Independence Arch is completed in 1961 for Queen Elizabeth II visit. Finally, the black star object already existed in 1961 because I checked it in the movie, of the ceremony for Queen Elizabeth II visit. I'm not sure if this is evidence of Nkrumah's resistance to the consciousness axis, conventional axis created by British, but I suspected that this axis completed after independence was deliberated for him, as he wanted to symbolize his power as a nation in landmark and cityscapes. To memorize Ghana's founders, I think that following. This urban axis may be a continuation of his thought of urban planning. Next, I will focus on each of the buildings in Marine Drive area. I worked with a conscious effort to find variable buildings which were buried in the shadow of the huge structure and modern architecture created under Nkrumah. First, I got three old maps of Marine Drive Accra. The one in 1927, the planning one 1957 for 1958, and the one in 1966. The mark on 1927 map means, sorry? Sorry. First, I got three, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1927 map means it already existed during the colonial period. Even if the planner of the building is not famous like Fry, it can be said so great variable because it has survived for nearly 100 years. And those that do not exist on the 1957 map and exist on the 1966 map may have been built under the Nkrumah administration. Furthermore, I add the current one with those superimposed over the map. I clarify which building remained and which disappeared in each phase. And for each building, I have created a data sheet. For example, this is the building of Vodafone. By comparing the map, you can find the map itself has already existed as cable office in 1927. It looks unchanged since 1927 as far as its shape goes. On the left is a map made by Ministry of Housing for 1958. That shows the distribution of the power station. It is not clear whether each station is a new or existing one. The three buildings on the left are existing one. Each currently has a function like a power station, so it can be assumed they correspond to the spots on the left map. The map superposition shows that 0, 6, and 10 already existed as 1927. What this means is that the historical fact that the electricity supply infrastructure has been inherited from before independence. By superimposing the maps and matching them with the other documents in this way, it is possible to determine how long the building has remained existing. About analysis of building, I picked up all the buildings from the 1927 map, the 1958 planning map, the 1966 map, the existing architecture and marine drive area divided into cases according to whether they existed or not exist on the map from other year. If there is a change in the shape of the building, it means that it has been reconstructed. This allows you to notice the existing of older buildings of historical value in addition to those built in 1957 to 1958 independence period. The building which has remained since 1927 belongs to this left floor. It flows away, exists on the planning, and exists. And from now, buildings that did not existed in 1927 and shown on the 1958 map are likely to have been built during the independence period. And in this table, buildings which built during Nkrumah's government fall within this range. The existing buildings are classified and color coordinated in this manner. Light blue representing buildings that have remained intact from 1927 to the present. Green, the deep green, represents buildings that did not exist in 1927 but have remained intact since 1958. I revealed when the buildings were constructed, when they were transformed, and when they have remained. Here is the current map visualized by the color coding and incorporated into the current map. The green buildings existed between 1958 and 1966. Many buildings that have remained unchanged since the colonial period and distributed on the west side of the marine drive area. The buildings which have existed since the British colonial period have various uses. The common denominator is that they were public facilities such as Mphil Resource Center, Vodafone Office, and schools. I don't have any information on how these buildings will be used with regard to future development. Many of the buildings from Nkrumah period are famous architectural structures. The designer of these buildings are diverse. The old U.S. Embassy on stilts was designed by American-born Harry Weiss. The old community center with its clever use of courtyard was designed by Mphil. Nkrumah tended to hire the architecture from socialist countries, states Lucas studied. So architectures from capitalist countries would tend to incorporate tropical considerations. Many of the government institutes, such as the Supreme Court and the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, are European style, and I think they were built by Britain. Finally, I would like to present the vision from the perspective of the architectural preservation. By observing the buildings one by one from the perspective of observation and perspective of architectural preservation, new characteristics become apparent. The west area is colonial era heritage, and the middle area is with lots of buildings turnover, and the green area is Nkrumah heritage, and the eastern area is a residential area. Architectural preservation presents the importance of area outside of the Blackstone Square. In the shadow of modern architecture and the independence monument by Nkrumah, there are various zones. In addition to symbolic architecture by Nkrumah, we would like to propose that architecture with a long history should also be considered for preservation and utilization. This is only the vision of the future from viewpoint of architectural preservation, in which I place a high priority on older buildings. However, all out investigation I do in Marine Drive, Accra, you can see the new view. During my stay, I was in danger because I did not know that I needed to have a permit to take the pictures of the building. Thus, I am an outsider and still inexperienced regarding Ghana. Any advice or question would be really appreciated. And last, I and Dr. Hayashi would like to appreciate Dr. Irene, Asia's governor, and all others who helped me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kai. I think you need a sip of water. You've done excellently well, better than you had even rated yourself. And you know, when Kai first approached Asiatu and myself, he told us, I speak very little English. I speak very little English. And my presentation is going to be 10 minutes. But then he's proved us wrong. He's gone beyond the limit that he estimated that he would speak within, and he's done so well. I believe that we have all understood his presentation. He tried as much as possible to give the transcription or to explain it on the slide, so we have all followed it. And in fact, paying attention, I heard about 90% of what he said. So well done, Kai. All right. So let me start on what he ended his presentation on. He said that architecture in Accra with long history should be considered for preservation and utilization. And that is a very powerful thing that he has said. Given the fact that a lot of renovations, a lot of changes are taking place in that space, in the old Accra or the around the Marine Drive area, Jamestown and all those places. So without much ado, I will ask in-house if there's any question, and then we'll move on to the online participants.
Thank you very much, Madam. And thank you. Is it Kai?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, if you ever lived in the Sioux area, which I did, and then you see him relate to the history that gave birth to some of the monumental buildings, Independence Square, and for the first time, my mind is drawn to the Independence Square with one road from Castle running through it, and yet you have 4 stars running in different directions and talking about the aspects of access with the stadium and stuff like that. You know, you can be blind. Then you realize how you know what you know, and when you get into certain areas, things you take for granted far more than you may have taken it to be. So I want to thank you very much for this great insight. Certainly it gets me interested to want to look at this a bit more. The aspect of access, I didn't get quite well, and I'll be excited if you could throw a bit more light access as it relates to the Independence Square, the stars in the 4 directions, as against the monuments that they relate to. I would love to hear a bit more about that. And again, I couldn't support your point a bit more by saying that monuments with great history that are long should be considered for preservation. And I don't know who is listening. Maybe Dr. Addo. They have a way of, as architects, they have a way of carrying that view through to the powers that be, so that it's not everything that is done. And yesterday I was just coming from 37, the former license office, and I saw that apparently all the police buildings, old police buildings over there are going apparently. All of them apparently. That was the first, and yesterday I was arrested by a policeman and they were redirecting me to go back to 37. And that is how we went through that. I saw that all of them. So, well, Dr. Peniado and his report, her people are there, they can talk. So thank you very much once again for the education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Online participants, do we have anyone?
Yes, thank you for advice to me. I mainly worked the story, the 28th February street that goes through the Rockstar Gate, and look around, and the view of the Rockstar were very open, and it was obvious that it's not out. However, I walking down the intricate street and complicated street, then the sports stadium was landmark, I feel. And the axis of I realized the city is changing. The axis was the 20th February road, but when I when I walk in the intricate streets, I feel the axis has changed to sports stadium. It was very interesting for me. So I feel you have really helpful advice to me. Thank you.
All right, and to our online, I see two hands. Prof. Addo, you can please unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Prof, we can't hear you.
Oh, well, I'm not muted. Did you mute me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. You can still hear me, right?
Yes, very loud and clear.
Yeah, I want to congratulate the speaker. You know, he did a great job, especially the illustrations, symbolizations, and the narratives behind them. Congratulations. I just have two simple questions. They actually concerns, and they touch on the idea of decolonizing architectural practices in Ghana, for example. And when I mention decolonizing, it has to do with values, cultural values, personal values. For example, the culture of maintenance, talking about utilization, preservation. It takes some amount of reorientation in terms of cultural individual values, whether it's community-oriented or centralized. Value is very important. The culture of maintenance is very important. For example, you can buy me iPhone 17, right? But I can throw it in the water tomorrow if I don't see any value of it. You know, I may not be able to charge the battery either. You know, so in terms of analogy, I think you have an idea what I'm driving at. I think the initiatives have to come from us, from within. And these also should inform current practices. For example, I'm sure if you stay long in Ghana, you'll be falling into a gutter. Yes or no? That's anyway. So something to consider in practical terms, the way we live. You know, finding a house to go to drive to, home house number, street address. These are issues, they're related to architecture, right? About the environment, the built environment, and talking about decolonizing the way we live, ways of being, the built environment, the way we conceptualize it, and the way we actually inhabit it. So these are some ideas I want to throw on the floor to follow up with Dr. Nidote's questions. Thank you.
All right, so we take the next person and we type right to ask for them to go. Kwesiama, you can please unmute and then ask your question or make your comments. Kwesiama, can you please hear me? Hello? Yeah, Kwesi, sorry. Kwesi, can you please take over, mute and then ask your question. Kwesi, can you mute and ask your question? Okay, so Percy says he can hear us, but it appears we cannot hear him. Percy, you are muted, so please unmute. Yes, so can you please, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I will not be able to answer all your intents by now, but maintenance issue important, I think so. And the kind of material it was made of the strongly to its maintenance. But I believe that what remains is as good as it can be. In Japan, there is an old village which remain for more thousand years. And the place is geologically strong place. Uh, recently, they discovered. So, but now I think it is the same everywhere in the world. That value is not always placed on all the things. So I want criticize such a situation, and it is the colonial building. I know it's variable at the perspective of the preservation, but it is not when you stand another perspective. For example, the colonialism. It is it can be say the negative heritage. Uh, I can see I can understand the perspective, but I want to broadcast uh, the value is I'm sorry, in the perspective of architectural preservation, the older, the higher value. So I want to say uh, yeah, I want to represent such like this. It is not the answer from your question. I feel, but I want to conclude. So I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other comments online or questions from participants online?
All right. So thank you. Hi. Yes, the older the building, the more valuable we can say it is. I hope following Dr. Nidote's call, we have people listening to us. So maybe Kai, you can also share with us your experience from the Japanese perspective. How are they managing, urban renewal as against urban preservation? How are the Japanese managing that?
Do you know the yes, please. Yeah. do you want to know the example in the Japan to the money? Uh, yeah, let's see. Japan has certainly modern architecture is too familiar to the contemporary person. As, but in Japan, the shrine in the Edo period is so familiar when they tour and for foreigners in the world. So let me show. This example is so famous in the world. It's called King Kakuji. They put gold on the wall, and, and maintenance is continue since it has built. And this I think the maintenance is the so important for architectural preservation. And this example symbolize uh, the how to say symbolize the capacity of the maintenance of the architecture. I feel. So I pick up King of the in this time.
I think we have one comment online. Akwesiama, do you still want to share your question or your comment? Please try and let's see if we can hear you. Or if you don't mind, you can also put your comment in the chat and then I'll read it out. Yeah, so there is one comment here from Mphil, and he says, Sir David Ajayi has spelled out a reimagination proposal for the Marine Drive area. And the research has been shared out here looks extensively on the Marine Drive area. So I'm just wondering if there is any kind of clues or any kind of connection between these two. Have you heard of Sir Ajayi?
Yeah, from
Okay, yeah, so this person wants to see whether there is any connection between what you are doing and his proposal of the married bride.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Maybe you have more knowledge about the story David Ajay. But I see many the working world when I'm walking around the art drive area. and but I listened to Ilan about him, and so but I feel he is a leading figure in the marine driver area today. I also want to know whether he how he introduced the Nkrumah axis. Black stars and independence arch in the axis which includes the independence arch and the sports stadium and the Black Star monument. But I don't know if he includes the future urban structure. But I also want to know how he moved for the future Marine Drive Accra. Thank you.
There is another comment here. There is an older map, that is a Kojo Devan. And he says there is an older map of the Independence Square area from 1890. It may add a layer to the ones you have. So that's a very good one.
Thank you. I want to know about it more. So,
Yeah, so if you want to look for that, like he said, it is from 1890. That, yes. And then Akwesi has now put out his comment. The podium where Nkrumah and Co stood at the dawn of independence was at the location of the Ambassador Hotel, now Murundi Hotel, with the crowd spreading around towards the Tema Station or Polo Ground area. All right, so I think this is a comment that is also adding to your work, so you may want to take notice of this as well. Where the earlier comment is, I haven't seen that. I can't find any comments in my chat from you, which perhaps
there is often a misunderstanding that declaration. This one.
Again?
There is often a misunderstanding.
Okay, there is often a misunderstanding that the Declaration of Independence happened at the Black Star or Independence Square, but that is not the case. Okay, so another comment that you want to take notice of. All right, thank you very much, Appeaning, for the comments. I thank you very much.
I think we've all learned something from today's presentation. And for my my junior architects and junior scholars, there's something that we all need to learn, and that is seeing how to see in the urban space. So seeing is not just seeing objects as they are, not just seeing how architecturally pleasing or distasteful as it may be, or having some ideas, or just seeing the modernist planning perspective. But then it's also about seeing as a complete element, because Kai's research has shown us that he saw the axis, the Black Star, the planet, the state buildings, the non-state buildings, and everything. He tried to see it as a complete picture. And that is something that we need to do as we walk along streets, as we visit spaces, open spaces. Let's not just think about it as a point but then we should think about all these things as a complete whole. And so on that note, Kai, we are so grateful to you and for coming to share part of your research with us. We thank you so much. And I believe that Pabna and his team are online and they've learned a lot from your work. And they are also going to take up, because you said that it is necessary that they also, you talked about some further research areas. And I believe that those pointers, they've taken note of it, and they are also going to work with you and develop a bigger project in future. And so on that note, we thank you so much. It's so unfortunate that we have very few people in the room. We have some nice chocolates from Kai. So Hasiatu, please take over.
All right, so those online, I think we can pass your chocolate over through the internet. So please wait for it there. And I say a very big thank you to all of you who made time to join us online. And for the few of us who are in-house, you see the chocolate. So we will get yours to you, don't worry. And Kai, we say a very, very big thank you for making time to join us. And in fact, for flying all the way from Japan for this particular purpose. Thank you very much. And I want to add that we urge our students to also take opportunity of the seminar series and as well share their presentations or share their ongoing projects for comments as Kai has benefited this morning. And the actual seminar series begins strongly in the middle of October. That is just some few weeks to come. And it's promising to be very exciting as it used to be for the past semesters. So on this note, I also see a very big thank you for making time to join us once again. And have a wonderful day or a wonderful weekend, right? Yes, so bye-bye. We will enjoy the chocolate for you. Bye-bye. Dr. Dinote, please stay for your chocolate.